Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of What Matters with me, Erica Lita. And today we will be covering the topic of fear. Now, this has become very popular recently, and I'm very happy to see that because everyone deals with fear, and we all need help in learning how to identify it and cope with it. For myself, one of the reasons why I feel so driven to help people is because most of my setbacks or most of the things that hold me back come from within myself. Now, a lot of people aren't that fortunate and aren't in that position. A lot of the things that hold them back, a lot of the things that keep them from their dreams are external. Here, most of us face internal dilemmas and why we can't accomplish the things that we'd like to. Identifying your fear is the first thing. Sometimes we think we're afraid of, we'll say, I don't want to do something. And you recognize that you have a fear of a part of it, but you don't identify and zero in on exactly what it is. Until you know what your problem is, you cannot fix it. So identifying your fear is very important. And then next it would be learning how to overcome that fear. What can you do in your day-to-day life to get past what scares you the most in order to reach and live your best life? Today I have a guest with me, Mr. Keith Hill Jr. He is an author, professor, and speaker. And he will be speaking about his book, Fighting Fear and Doing Discipline. And one of, there we go. I don't have the camera angles just perfect yet. And one of the things that I find so fascinating about the book is the second part, in doing discipline. Because as we overcome our fears, oftentimes we get stuck. So what are the steps that we take to keep going forward after we have identified and conquered our fears? So after the break, Mr. Keith Hill Jr. will be with me and we will delve into this subject.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
And we're back. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm very, very fascinated by the second part of your book, and we will get to that, but we'll start at the beginning. So can you tell me a bit about yourself? Introduce yourself to everyone.
How could I start, or where could I start? Well, let me start as it pertains to the book. You know, I wrote this book in effort to do what I constantly do in my life, which is just become better. So as a man of God, I like to just always try to be my best version of myself. So when I was thinking about one of the things that I could do, it was being a person of courage, or even more courageous, and then being a person of discipline. So, you know, in essence, that's what started me writing the book, but maybe I could go a little bit back and say, you know, I'm from Toronto, spent almost 20 years in New York. You know, I had a music business background. It's so eclectic that I'm just trying to think how I could take it linear. You know, I transitioned from the music business and ultimately went into accounting and bookkeeping.
That's a switch.
It's a switch, but what I always like to say is that, you know, even when I was in the music business, I was more behind the scenes, so it was still in that respect. You know, you're not the forefront of being that type of person, which is also, you know, I don't want to get ahead of myself, which is also one of the things that led me to realize that the fear was an issue, because I always found that I was in the background, but when I kind of thought about why, you know, it was just not wanting to be in that forefront position. But in any event, I transitioned, and then I became, you know, a bookkeeper for lawyers specifically, and kind of went with that specific niche kind of job title, and then transitioned into becoming a professor at George Brown College in that same genre, and so on and so on and so forth. There's so much, I don't know where to start or where to stop, but that's a nutshell.
That's it in a nutshell. So tell me so you lived in New York for 20 years, and then you came back to Toronto, right?
Correct.
And how long ago was that you returned to Toronto?
About 8 years now. And actually within that time frame, I moved back for like a year and then came back again. So
you came back again.
Been a lot of back and forth.
And what inspired you? What pushed you to write this book?
Well, like I was saying, ultimately the just wanting to better myself. So it wasn't a book that I was writing in a literal sense. It was just research that I was gathering. But as I realized the gathering of the research was just coming together, it almost came, you know, alive by itself, and it just became an organic process. I am a writer, so when I was researching it, I was formatting it and putting it into different structure, but it was for myself. But then when I realized this is a book, I became more deliberate about it, and I said I want to share it. I felt like it had value. It does have value. And then I just decided to make it a formal piece of literature.
Amazing. So it really started as a self-help project for yourself.
Absolutely, 100%. I say in the beginning of the book, I was and continue to be my own guinea pig. You know, I've done research. I've done, you know, just research from different perspectives. But ultimately, I myself am the best product of what it is that I write about.
Okay. So now, in your book, the intro is very, very interesting, and what you had mentioned to forgive, because you do use a lot of sports analogies.
Yes, yes.
And one of my favorite analogies that he used is how success is like a relay race, and I thought that was really interesting. So do you want to expand on that?
Well, it's what I use mostly whenever I do my speaking, because it encapsulates exactly what I'm speaking about. So the analogy that I give is that fear, or rather courage, is like the first place runner, because if that runner doesn't get off the starting blocks, then you can't even move, or you can't win the race, or you can't even participate. So the first runner in the analogy is the courage. So you have to have courage to begin. The second and third place runner, I don't speak about in the book, but I make reference to it, which is knowledge and talent. You have to have a certain level of talent, certain knowledge that you have to acquire. But then the last place runner, which is the one that I make reference to as the Usain Bolt, because we know his job when it comes to his former job when it comes to running in the relay race was to secure the win.
Right.
Was
exactly.
to make up for any slack that the first, second, or third place runners may have occurred. But the self-discipline is where you do exactly just that. You make up for any slack in any area. That's the strongest, the most important, and the one that should be focused on the most. So that's the analogy that I give when it comes to the relay race.
I thought that was very interesting because I feel that in the discussion of conquering your fears and going towards your dreams, discussing the root, which is what you do in the first chapters of the book, identifying it, figuring out what it is, and then you discuss how to get past it,
Correct.
what you do to actually get past it. But then once you've gotten past your fear of public speaking or commitment, be it to a job or a project, then it's self-discipline that really gets you to the end line, right?
Absolutely. Well, that's what I mean with the analogy. You could be courageous, you could have talent, you could have discipline, you could have all the different assets that you require. But if you're not disciplined enough to see it all the way through, if you're not disciplined enough to do it the way that it should be done, then it's not that you cannot win, but you won't have your best chance at winning. So the self-discipline is by all means, I hesitate to say the most important, but it is highly overlooked in terms of the level of importance because it does make a difference, and it's the game changer. You know what I mean? So it's not just something that you need to have and it's nice to have and it would be a benefit. It's a game changer. If you could discipline yourself, because half of the time that's the only thing that prevents us from doing something, it's ourselves. So we want to, we know how to, and we decide that we're going to, but sometimes we just say, I'll do it tomorrow, or I won't be as aggressive at it, or I just won't do it that way. But if you discipline yourself and you do exactly what you know or what you've researched, that is the game changer.
Right. I see. I was fascinated by this because I realized that was an element that I was missing myself. In that when you gather the courage, whether it's through, just doing it, or you get the help that you need to get past that fear to actually do it, you gather that courage, that's a tremendous step. That's an amazing step.
Absolutely.
And you feel very accomplished. But as you said, it's to keep you in the race. Because when you're afraid of something, I feel that oftentimes that's where the doubt comes in later on, where, as you said, you have the knowledge, you have the talent, you start to work towards it, and then that little voice comes back saying, well, there's so many people doing this, and, so by being disciplined and having that plan, that's what changes the game entirely.
Absolutely.
Right?
It is the best way I can describe it. It is the game changer. It changes everything. And like I said, most of the times we think that there's challenges in our life and there's challenges that are preventing us from doing certain things. But when you really look at what the root of it is, it's you stopping yourself.
Right.
So that self-discipline makes all the difference.
It makes all the difference. So when we come back from break, I would like, without giving it all away, I would like some of your tips on identifying your fears and conquering them. And and I'd love to hear a little bit about what your big fear was and what it had stopped you from doing.
Cool. Sounds good.
Have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity in our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Hi guys, welcome back. And now we will be discussing from Mr. Hill Jr.'s. Do you always do that? Do you have to say Hill Jr.?
No. Only when you're saying Keith Hill Jr. But if it's Hill,
It's
if
Hill?
just a
It
surname,
could
it's
just be Hill.
But can
Okay.
I just tell you why I put the Jr.?
Yes.
Because when you Google Keith Hill, it's such a common name. There's
Oh,
like
really?
a million of them. But when you Google Keith Hill Jr., I'm always the one at the top of the list. So I decided to just stick with that, just to make a little bit of a unique identity kind of thing.
Okay, that's interesting. I was actually going to ask you about that, but you've answered my question.
Sorry.
So, what I would like to know, because as I said, and I think it is terrific that there are so many authors and speakers addressing fear. Because as you said, fear holds us back. Fear is what holds us back. And at the beginning of the show, in my intro, that's what I was trying to say, was that I feel that most of us here are very fortunate because most of the things that hold us back come from within.
Absolutely.
And when you're in a place or in a situation where the things that hold you back are actually external things, you have so little control over them.
Absolutely.
So if it's politics or whatever else it is that holds you back and it's external, you don't have much control. But when they're internal things, like they were for us, you can control that. But oftentimes people feel that they have no control.
Absolutely.
So one of my questions is for you, like you said you were in the music business and you realized you didn't like to be in the forefront. You liked being behind. Now, was that really just a preference? Some people are, they just don't.
Let me just rephrase the word fear a little bit, because sometimes people take the word fear and think like terrifying, you know what I mean? Or some kind of scary moment, because it wasn't even that, but just the uncomfortability.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
But when you go and dig down to the root of that uncomfortability, it was fear. You know what I mean? So I just want to make sure that the viewers understand that, somebody may think, well, I don't have fear of that. I'm not afraid of nothing. Even in an uncomfortable situation, you have to assess whether or not that uncomfortability is based on fear. So in my situation, it was an uncomfortability. And then it was only while I was doing this research, just in terms of coming back to Canada, changing my life, wanting to take myself to the next level and just do things just higher and higher, that I realized, like, okay, these different positions that I've been in, these different opportunities I've turned down, and these different things that I found myself in, just looking at them, and I'm like, how come I didn't do that? How come I always gravitate towards that? And then it wasn't a conscious thing, and then I started realizing it was that uncomfortability rooted in fear.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? So it wasn't in the moment that it was realized. It was absolutely during this moment in time when I did the research, and then I started realizing, oh, that's why that, and it just started clicking, and it just made sense.
Okay, so it's also self-reflection, right? A lot of times we go through life doing what we did because that's what we always did, or what we've always done. And in stopping and reflecting on your whys, I think that's how you get to the root of a lot of your fears, or start to realize a lot of
And
your
it's
fears.
not only that we do what we've always done, but we seem to always do what we naturally are drawn to. And they always say, you have to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
and
nothing
that's
grows in
the
the
point.
comfort zone.
Exactly. So and that's what I was saying in my experience is that, let me just be candid in saying, like, being here right now is out of my comfort zone.
Good.
And actually, let me actually say even one step further. Being here right now used to be a situation that would be out of my comfort zone. Right. Now it's not so much, because I've done it so often, because I apply the principles, and I'm realizing what's, like, you're not going to harm me, right?
No.
So,
No. Not on camera.
So you see what I mean? So there's nothing, and that's the thing, just to kind of digress for a moment. The things that we oftentimes, like, for instance, public speaking, a lot of people are afraid of that, and they say that public speaking is the number one fear, and next to death, fear of dying.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, people prevalently are afraid of public speaking and being in that kind of environment. But when you think of why, it's always nothing significant. What if I make a mistake? What if they laugh? What if they don't? And what are the chances? Because oftentimes when you start realizing what the odds are in your favor, that what you're afraid of won't even realize itself. So
Yeah, it won't manifest.
It won't
so.
manifest, exactly. So the point is when you consider the fear aspect, you have to consider, not only gravitating towards what you are comfortable with, but on the flip side, getting out of your comfort zone and finding out why are you only comfortable in this environment and what is over here, because there's so many things outside of the comfort zone. And what I found is that's where your blessings are, outside of that
Amen.
environment.
Exactly. I have found personally for myself, every time I have gone directly towards whatever I was afraid of, the greatest reward was on the other side.
Absolutely.
And it's almost as if the fear is there to keep you from actualizing all the things that you can.
Absolutely.
So I agree. And it simple is not easy. That's my favorite news phrase.
Simple is not easy.
Simple is not always easy.
And what does that mean?
Just because something is simple and straightforward, I can give you directions. You do this, this, and this is how you're going to get past your fear. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
Oh, I get it.
Right? And so even though it is very simple to give people steps, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. And for myself, how I to be able to go forth and do that, the encouragement, the backup, the feedback, and literally just doing it. And
Absolutely.
What you find is that it will not kill you. As you said, you get up on stage, you stumble, you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
Exactly.
And then when you get the feedback, when you're told, oh yeah, I saw you were nervous in the first 5 minutes, but then the rest of the speech was so amazing, that feedback feeds into your courage and makes you more ready to do the next step.
Exactly. And we have to put into perspective fear in the respect of what kind of fear. I make the distinction between fear and terror, because if someone is, holding you at gunpoint, or if you're in a plane that's forced to make an emergency landing, that's called rational fear.
Right.
And that's based on clear and present danger. It's clear and it's immediate. So that fear is rational. You have every reason to be afraid. But the fear that I speak of, which is the one that is most commonly, people are victimized by, is fears based on memory or imagination. And those are irrational fears. It's either something that was maybe an event happened in the past. Maybe you got bit by a spider in the past. So the mere picture of a spider that jogs your memory. So you're afraid of
Right.
a picture of a spider. Or even on the flip side, maybe you see a picture of a spider and you imagine what that spider could do if it was real. So those are irrational fears. And when it comes to public speaking and things of that nature, that's an irrational fear, because it's just your imagination getting the best of you about what might happen, what could happen, what might go wrong, what could go wrong, what if everything goes wrong, and all these other things that just fill your mind. But it's not a clear or present danger. And those are the only fears that should be given that level of respect, because like I said, fear has a place and it has a purpose, but if it's not clear and it's not present, then it doesn't have a place to have that much power.
I like that. That's actually a very good distinction between clear and present danger. A rational fear, you can be harmed. This is dangerous.
Absolutely.
And it's immediately dangerous between my feelings may get hurt or everyone may not like me.
Exactly.
So
or what if. Another analogy that I use is that, oftentimes when some people like myself are cooking, there might be a little bit of smoke, But in any event, when there's smoke in your kitchen and the fire alarm goes off, or a smoke detector goes off, you don't come downstairs and with the fire extinguisher and start spraying immediately.
Right.
First thing you do is you check. You just validate whether it's a danger or not. And that's what fear is. Fear is an alarm that just signals there might be danger. Your job now is to check, to validate whether that danger is real or not and what level of attention it deserves. So if it's the case of the smoke alarm going off, then you just fan the alarm and you continue about your day. But some people, they treat fear as though as soon as the alarm goes off, they spray the fire extinguisher. And then they just, but you have to validate. So the thing I always want to make sure that, people understand is that the purpose of fear, in a very, very quick nutshell, it's an alarm. It's just an alarm that says there might be danger. Your job now is to check to see if it's real or not and to give respect to that, but it's simply 100% just an alarm that says there might be
Be
danger.
danger. I like that very much. We're going for a break right now. We'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll be going over some community projects that Mr. Keith Hill has been working on. Junior.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
And we're back. So in this segment, I would like to discuss the part of the book that was so fascinating for me, and that I think this is what really takes you to where you need to go, and this is what I'm realizing I need as well, and it's the part about doing discipline. Now, I'm not sure if I read it in the book or if I read it on his page, but a lot of people hear the word self-discipline and it just has the most negative connotation. It sounds like a punishment. And it really doesn't sound like something that you want to do, especially to yourself. But that's the game changer. That's the difference between having a good idea and executing it, keeping a dream in your head and living the dream. It's the self-discipline. And a lot of times, again, as I said before, I find that when we address fear, once you're told, to conquer it, to address it, then you're kind of left in the starting gate with this newfound power to go forward. But how do you maintain your momentum? How do you keep going? So that is something that I know is dear to you, because you said, that is, that's what's really put you on the path and has had you achieve the things that you've wanted to. And I actually feel that this is something I could definitely apply to myself. There's a lot of stuckness, for want of a better way to put it. I'm making up words, people. I'm good for that.
We'll go with that.
A lot of stuckness. So I have good ideas. I've gotten past the first phase. It's all good, but I can do it tomorrow.
Right.
And I don't really have this. And so the self-discipline, that control that you exert over yourself, which is tremendous, is the difference between achieving and dreaming.
Absolutely. And first and foremost, I always want to make sure to make it clear, you're always going to you're not going to be perfect, because some people think, even for myself, there's still areas that I still work on when it comes to courage and discipline, and it'll probably be like that infinitely, indefinitely. But the point is, just constantly getting better is the point. But when it comes to self-discipline, it does have a negative connotation because of that word discipline.
Yep.
But I always like to rephrase it and call it self-improvement, because that's ultimately the end goal, is to improve yourself, is to improve your condition or your situation or yourself. But it's about improving, not necessarily disciplining, because even when we're disciplining our children or something of that nature, it's a correction to make them better.
Right.
So there's a certain level of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just people shy away from it because it's that word discipline. But if you rename it and call it self-improvement, you better understand what's happening. And the other thing is, I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt is the one who's known for this quote that says, with freedom comes great responsibility.
Yeah, with great power comes great responsibility, or maybe I'm quoting Superman
With-
or something, but that's the phrase.
Well,
that I
but the point of the quote is that once you're free, there's a responsibility. But you know, the fear part frees you up to do certain things because now I'm courage. But now you have a responsibility to yourself, and that's what the discipline does. Discipline gives you something that you could have to give you that responsibility, an extra push,
Right.
or that keeps that extra. I've used so many analogies just because I always try to make it so that people could understand.
Yeah,
but relatable.
Yeah.
And one of the analogies that I use is it's like guardrails. It's like, you know, if you're going off track, the discipline just keeps you back on track. So if you're veering this way, the discipline just keeps you on track so that you're constantly moving towards your goal.
Right.
But without those guardrails, you know, we're just human nature. We're known to veer off track, and if you keep veering off track with nothing to correct you, then you'll be going in the wrong direction. In the bushes.
You're in the
Exactly.
bushes. So tell me, sometimes it's breaking it down. Self-discipline. For want of a better way to put this, how do you do it? How do you discipline yourself? Do you have steps? Do you have, like, how do you train yourself to what is it that you, because I didn't get to that part. What is it that you do exactly, without giving away the whole book, to discipline yourself? Is it a series of actions? Is it repetition? Is it having, checking in with people, being accountable to people?
Well, it's so many things, but the thing that I always, because, you know, these concepts are, as they say, a lot of things start in your mind.
Absolutely.
So, you know, those things that you're making reference to are more external, but I like to start internal. So the first thing that I would say is just consider the big picture. Why? What's your reason? So if you're trying to discipline yourself in order to obtain a goal or reach a goal, I got to go back to practice. Their goal is I got to win a championship.
Right, okay.
The championship is my goal. I got to get the chip. I got to get that W. I got to get that win for my team, for my city, or whatever it might be. And that's the constant goal that's propelling them to make the discipline part that requires them. Because, you know, it's not, I think you said earlier that simple is not easy. Is that what you said?
Simple is not always easy.
Simple is not always easy. So it's simple in its concept, but it doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
Right. Exactly.
So that's the first thing. Just because you're disciplining yourself, it doesn't mean, oh, okay, I could do this and now it's going to be easy. It actually means doing the hard work. So get out of your mind that, you know, it's something that is going to be a breeze. But the first thing I would say is start with, you know, your why and your big picture, and always consider that somebody's counting on you in every respect, whether it's your team, whether it's your family, whether it's your business associates, whether it's your community, or whether it's yourself, whether it's your future self.
Right.
Because it's always somebody, you know, relying on you. So when you know, consider your why and you keep your big picture in the forefront of your mind, then also consider who's counting on you, even if it's your future self.
I really like that. I
Yeah.
really like that. Not to interrupt you, but I think that visualization, because, you know, people that are married or have children or are part of a team or have business associates, it's like, okay, you have these other people that count on you, and
Right.
they're very visual, they're very real. But then if it's a solo project, if it's something really for you, it's being accountable, like you said, to your future self.
Exactly.
And something that I say to my son a lot, I say, do something today that
Your
you will
future self.
appreciate 10 years from now.
Yeah, or your future self will thank you for it.
Thank you for it,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So I really like that concept of, you know, if you have to be accountable to anybody and you don't have an external person, it really is a personal project. You think about the you will be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and how grateful you will be to that other you for actually
Exactly.
making those steps every day.
And I've interviewed a couple of my cousins are in the U.S. military, and I interviewed them because we know the U.S. military doesn't play. Well, military in general doesn't play when it comes to discipline. So
yeah.
just to get some understanding from what the military mindset, and you know, one of the concepts were that you're a cog in the wheel, meaning you're just a part of a whole. So when you consider that your platoon mates or whomever are dependent on you, then it just gives you more of a reason to keep on fighting.
Right.
Or another analogy I like to use is that single mother who, just has a child, just had a child, and they have to go to 2 or 3 jobs. You know, they don't want to, but that child is depending on them. So
Right.
when you consider yourself a part of that equation in terms of who's depending on you, you put your future self in that category, then it just gives you a little bit more, oomph to just say, I'm going to keep on keeping on, because it's not easy, but, you got to find that mojo to keep you going.
And you said something just now too that I think is very important. It's valuing yourself, because sometimes when it is a personal project, when you're working on it by yourself, you will go by the wayside. You will stray because it's just you, and well, who's going to say anything to you about what you didn't do?
Exactly.
So you have to put a lot of value on yourself, even if it is that future self. And to anybody, this is just coming to me, but anybody that's stuck like that, and there is a self-esteem issue, backing up that inability to keep going forward and falling off and procrastinating. Think about who you will be in the future and how much they will appreciate that. So I think that was a really great analogy. And even that idea of being a cog in the wheel, being part of something greater than yourself.
Exactly.
And that's why when your purpose, oftentimes I find when people's purpose is external, when it is for a child or a team or a greater cause, they're more driven than when it's just for themselves.
And that's sad, because you are just as important as others that you're trying to do things for. And the last thing I'd want to add is the fact that self-discipline, once you realize you can do something, you realize self-discipline is like a muscle, and it does become easier. Right. So once you get over that hump of it, the difficulty, then you start realizing you can do it, and you could do more, and then you could apply it in other areas. So that's the other thing that I make reference to, is that it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
The muscle memory. We'll be right back after these messages.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging, and use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
And we're back. I'd like to mention before the end of the show, and I will repeat it, that you can win a copy of Mr. Keith Hill Jr.'s book. It's a wonderful read. It's quick, it's easy, and it's just full with the information you need. It's like a guide to help you get to where you're going. And it's super valuable, and I feel very, very honored to be able to give away a copy. Thank you so much, Keith.
No problem.
And so what you'd have to do to win, we will select the winner from the comments. Drop us, it could be long, it can be short. Let us know what your greatest fear is, or how you've overcome that fear, or any feedback that you have about the show. And Keith and I will pick from in the comments the winner, and we will let you know on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, who won a copy of Mr. Hill Jr.'s book, and I will mail it out to you if you're not in the GTA. So all of my, everybody watching in the United States and everywhere else, I thank you. And if you are the winner, I will mail it out to you, no problem. So for this last part, and it's really gone fast, I'm so glad that you were here. Let's talk a little bit about your community activism, because when I had, on your site and in your bio and in different places and even on your Facebook profile, I saw there was a project called 10 Men, 1 Mission.
Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, it's a group of brothers from the GTA that basically have come together. Shout out to Jeff. Jeff is the one who, from Brothers from the Six. We all wrote a book together combining of 10 men. And the purpose of it is to empower other young men and young women, specifically in the city, but ultimately it could go as far as it could go. But the point is, as an adult, and each of us feel the same way, we've taken it upon ourselves to give back, because, there's always times when you said to yourself, I wish I knew that I wish my younger self knew that.
Right. Yes.
If only.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we hear that too much, you know, and whether it could be lack of a parent or a mentor or whatever it might be, or just hard luck. It could be your environment, whatever it might be. Far too often we grow up saying, if only I knew this back then. So we've decided to put together a book that has a lot of gems in it from 10 different perspectives. It's not 10 similar stories. Everyone's story is different. Everyone is different in terms of its approach, its audience, and its style. But the message is the same. Things you should know, things you should understand as you cross over that adolescent stage in life into adulthood, and just, you know, different ways to just connect to the youth in that way.
That's amazing. And so you do some, you say advocacy, because I asked you if I could use the word mentor, and you said no. Let's lean towards advocacy.
Yeah.
So you do, shall I say, I don't want to use the word fight because it sounds aggressive, but you do advocate for the youth in our community.
Well, I always get challenged with different titles, like, you know, motivational speaker, mentor, and I don't know what label to apply because I don't like them all. Just because they all are very specific. Mentoring is like you're working with someone specifically. Advocacy is you're out there advocating and things of that nature. But my bottom line is I just have a passion for youth. I have, you know, I live my life in a way that any young person in my sphere of influence, I feel like it's my responsibility to try to give them something that I wish I had, or something that I believe that will be useful to them when they get older. And so I just live my life that way. But I make a deliberate effort to go outside of my sphere of influence and try to find other young people that may be just outside of that circle, or maybe even a little bit further. So whatever you call that, I don't know. It's very informal. I'm not out there with an organization. I'm not out there with a title or anything. It's a lifestyle. So that's why it's hard for me to title it. It's just I have a passion for young people.
That's tremendous. It's a lifestyle. I think that is just one of the best things I've heard in a long time, that it is a lifestyle, that you giving back to the youth, looking out for the youth, trying to do whatever you can for someone, however random, a young person in need. That is tremendous, and I wish there were more men in the community like you. It's desperately needed, and I will have to say thank you myself. Like, thank you so much for doing that. It's really needed, and it's wonderful to see. I saw some of the videos on Facebook, and I also see you speaking in front of classes as well. But to know that you're giving back, and outside of your sphere of influence as well, because oftentimes in association with a church or a group or an area, that's where everything lies, and they don't go outside of that. So to me, that is amazing. And it's interesting you say that. So it's, I guess, because you're a man, it's mostly males that you feel you have that influence on, or do you also work with young women as well? Or
well, because I'm a man, it's natural to assimilate towards a young male. But like I said in my book, like I've said here, I try my best to go outside of my comfort zone, the norm. So it is more natural, it is more common that I'm speaking to young men and things of that nature. But I do make my best effort to reach out and not alienate, you know, young women, things like that.
Okay, and what, in your experience in doing this and it being part of your lifestyle, which I think is so amazing, what have you found is one of the biggest areas of concern for our young people? What are you seeing, especially our young men? What are you seeing that is the thing holding them back the most, or their biggest area of concern?
I think the absolute biggest area of concern is no clear vision for the future. So if you don't have a clear vision for your future, then there's no goals to attain. So then it just ripples. The ripple effect is that then there's no goals, there's the lack of ambition, direction, and all these different things that, you know, if you're a young person who just says, I want to make it to the NBA at 13, and that's your goal, you're more likely to get up every morning, go to the gym, chase that dream, do good in school, try to get into college, try to be a good player, and try to do all these things. But if you have nothing to aspire to, which is what I've found, then what's gonna keep your mojo going to say I'm going to do this. So then you just end up just going through the motions of the every day, which turns into the every month, which turns into the every year, which turns into several years, and then maybe eventually you find something, and then you're looking at how old you are. So I just find, because that's one of my questions that I always ask. I try not to do the cliche, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Right.
But I do try to drill down and find out what is your passion, what is your goal, and then try to just drop a little, keep going.
Right.
So if you have a goal, then you're going towards a goal, then you can keep going. Even if it switches, then it switches.
Right.
You know, but that's the thing that I found the most, that there's too much uncertainty with regards to the future of what they want to do and be.
And I find that interesting because on one hand, I think that especially young black males, there's so many more things that it seems they have access to, and so many more things that they can do as jobs, careers, and so forth. So to hear that there's such a lack of vision is almost surprising. That it almost seems like when there were more barriers up, there was more drive.
Right.
And I find that very interesting.
Well, when it comes to the young black men in the community specifically, it's, maybe there's the caveat in that respect that, there's not enough clear vision, that maybe the vision is too limiting.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't want to stereotype, but the visions are very limiting. Like, you got much more than that, or you could be so much more than that, or why wouldn't you consider this?
Exactly.
And that's what it is. It's in that same capacity where the vision is not clear, but maybe if it's with regards to that specific demographic, the vision is very limited.
Right. So everybody wants to be a this, and they're not thinking outside of that box, and the probability of being a that is quite low.
Right. And then even furthermore, your skill, like, I don't want to stereotype, so I'm not even gonna
we're dancing around. Notice we were this. We're dancing around with words.
But the thing is, you gotta pick the lowest fruit on the tree. So sometimes it's like, yeah, you want to do that, but you're good at that. Like, you could draw.
So
you could draw. Why not go with the talent? I don't want to draw. I don't want to do that. Why not? Do something in art, or do something that could, propel you in that respect. So sometimes we have the gifts, but we don't. Sorry, I just thought of a story that I won't even get into it. But in any respect, that's the long and short of it. I just feel like there's not enough vision.
There's not enough vision. Well, on behalf of, I'm sure, so many people in the community, I thank you for going out there, being out there with the youth, because they need it, we need it, and I'm very grateful. And again, as I said, you can win yourself a copy of Fighting Fear and Doing Discipline. Drop a comment underneath the video below. Tell us what your greatest fear is. Tell us how you overcame it. Tell us how you think we did. All comments will be considered, and Keith and I will get back to you. What do you think? We'll give till Friday?
Friday sounds good.
Friday sounds good. So on Friday, we will announce the winner on social media, on my Facebook and Instagram, as well as Keith Hill Jr.'s Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Keith Hill Jr., for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. It was wonderful speaking with you.
Likewise.
And I will see you again next Tuesday.